Do I know you?
We're pretty close, actually.
Because you're because it worked.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's I think I might have made a bad decision. I'm scared I made a mistake.
I know. I'm happy we had the time that we did. And that you were there for me. Until you couldn't be. I'm proud of you. And sad.
If you're happy, I'm happy.
I love you.
I love you 3,000.
Excelsior True Believers, what's up guys, and welcome back to the channel for the last time this year. From myself to you all, I hope that 2021 is a much more prosperous and forgiving year for you. There is a lot that I'm working on sort of behind the scenes here at the moment, so I'm probably going to go back to doing weekly videos. The daily thing's just not going to work with the time schedule that I've got at the moment, as sort of this last week has shown. But there is a lot of cool stuff happening, and I will be trying to continue making videos for you guys. We're just going to have to slow the pace down a bit, but you can definitely look forward to seeing a whole bunch of Marvel content from me, because Marvel's giving us a whole bunch of content, and some of that content seems to be leading towards the topic of today's video, the Young Avengers. Marvel looks like they're going to be introducing their second generation to the MCU. And by second generation, I literally mean the children of previous Avengers. If we do a head count here, Wiccan and Speed have already shown up as babies in the trailers for WandaVision. There is a version of Kid Loki in the comics who is just, time has passed through Loki and de-aged him. That could be really cool. We could essentially be keeping the same character from the Loki show. We just recast him as a younger actor that people still love, and next thing you go. Speaking of actors that people love, Boss Logic did a mock-up of Timothy Chalamet as a younger Loki, and I gotta say, even I'm pretty keen to see that. You know, there's Morgan Stark, there's Cassie Lang, there's, you know, the Avengers have got children of their own, and these kids are about to come to the forefront. I mean, Clint Barton has 3 of his own. If one of them doesn't end up being a character in the Secret Invasion thing working for SWORD, then, you know, I mean, sure, you don't have to follow your parents' footsteps, but the poetic justice of comics sort of demands that at least one of those kids ends up becoming a SWORD agent and working for Nick Fury, since Nick Fury was so good to their family by protecting them from anyone that wanted to destroy S.H.I.E.L.D. But yes, so let's have a look at who could be in this massive roster. I've thrown a couple in there just for speculation, just to sort of be like, we can kind of work these in. They sort of open up these possibilities for crossovers, and that makes them interesting characters to consider. But for the most part, this is just ones we know are coming based on the titles we've had revealed to us. Wiccan and Speed, as I already mentioned, WandaVision. That is our first cab off the rank, and we're getting right out of the gate 2 young Avengers. Next one is Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and we know from the trailer that it's looking at the legacy of that shield. Sam says it's complicated, that place that they're at when he's like throwing the shield into trees, and when he's talking to Bucky in presumably a similar scene at that same location. It looks like they're at some sort of what used to be a plantation, and I kind of have to believe that that's really sort of just invoking the fact that behind, you know, in America's less than favourable history, at one point, behind every successful white man was a team of hard-working black guys. That's just the way it was. And one of those hard-working black guys could have been Isaiah Bradley, the original Patriot, potentially from the 60s. Did Howard Stark use the Tesseract to make an almost perfect replica of the Super Soldier Serum? Don't know, but it'd be cool, wouldn't it? It'd explain why there was Super Soldier Serum for the Winter Soldier to steal. Tesseract is the stone that we know he had from the end of First Avenger. To our knowledge, at the moment, there were no other characters in the 60s, except for him. And if he was working with S.H.I.E.L.D. and the government, surely they were also having a Captain America surrogate doing other missions, or at least having research being looked into finally creating a super army, like a super soldier army, which is obviously why the Winter Soldier program was set up for Russia during the Cold War. It makes a bit of sense there, with the new Captain America being Sam Wilson, a fellow African American. Maybe Elijah Bradley, grandson of Isaiah Bradley, would feel that not only was his grandfather his personal hero, but now the person chosen by the original Captain America himself shares his skin color, and so he can proudly feel like he is a true patriot. Yelena Belova, we know she's getting her Black Widow name from Natasha in the Black Widow movie, and let's be honest, Black Widow 2 is probably going to be a Yelena Belova story. I believe the Black Widow in that film is not referring to Natasha, even though she is in that film. I believe the Black Widow that film's title is referring to is Yelena Belova, and this will end up being sort of her origin story of the MCU, and that's how it's going to fit in as a new story, because we're going to get to see her character, and it will only be because of how much she cares for Nat that she continues to celebrate the name of the Black Widow. As I said before, Kid Loki potentially is being portrayed by Timothée Chalamet. That'd be sick to see. We are getting a Loki series. We could potentially see that. We do know that he's going to be arrested by the Time Variance Authority. Time works differently there. Maybe they can make it work backwards and push time backwards through Loki to de-age him into looking like Timothée Chalamet, and then boom. We have Timothée Chalamet Loki in the MCU. It seamlessly ends Tom Hiddleston's run without destroying the character we all know and love, because they still have the opportunity to bring back Tom Hiddleston at any point, if they want an older Loki to sort of show up and run some mischief. They still allow themselves that possibility. We'd then have Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, played by Iman Vellani. We'd have Kate Bishop's Hawkeye, played by Haley Steinfeld. Both of them getting their own shows. Again, I think the Hawkeye in the TV show Hawkeye is referring to Kate Bishop, not to Clint Barton. We then have our Spider-Man fill-in, and I think it's going to be Silk. I think it's going to be Cindy Moon, the character has already appeared in the films, and I know that technically speaking that means that she's the same age as Peter Parker, but we do know it's supposed to be the same spider from the comics, but it doesn't necessarily say it was the same day. So she might only be new to her powers in that regard. So yeah, we might see her as like newly coming on into her powers, sort of a thing, while in the Venom, Morbius, sort of Sony Spider-Verse side of things, they have Miles Morales as their Spider-Man over there. Video games certainly suggest that that's the character they want to follow. But again, Miles Morales, Kira Ratcliffe would fit here as well. Amadeus Cho as Brawn could show up in this team. His mother already exists in the MCU. She was in Age of Ultron. She was the one that started, well actually she single-handedly built Vision's body. Another Hulk fill-in that would be really cool to see would be Rick Jones' A-Bomb. He's had one on-screen shout-out, and literally not even a cameo, a shout-out, and that was way back in 2008. It's about damn time Rick Jones joined the party. Give us A-Bomb. It's a character that no one's seen on screen unless you've watched the cartoons. So it's about damn time. America Chavez, played by Xochitl Gomez. Ironheart, Riri Williams, played by Dominic Thorne. America Chavez will be in Multiverse of Madness. Ironheart's obviously getting her own show. Nova / Protector, and Hulkling would be really cool to see. Hulkling at this point, I think if we're getting Wiccan, we're definitely getting Hulkling. That would be Captain Marvel 2 appearance, and the reason I say Hulkling's basically guaranteed is because he is Wiccan's boyfriend. They are a gay couple, and we know what diversity means to Marvel right now, especially if they're wanting to pull in as many new fans as possible. Hulkling and Wiccan being like these A-grade, like front and center characters, also happening to be gay characters, is a big thing for them. Cassie Lang as Stinger, played by Catherine Newton, and I know that that's a divisive topic to talk about, so let me know your comments, your thoughts about that in the comment section down below. I will just say this one thing. I do agree that Emma Thurman should have gotten her chance to play the heroic role that she originally got cast in the civilian identity of. However, you know, yes, she was done dirty. However, Catherine Newton does look a lot more like Cassie Lang does in the Young Avengers comics when she's in costume. So I understand why they did it. I think more or less, for me anyway, it's the way they did it that's sort of can do better. Marvel can do better. And then I think it'd be really cool to see Moon Girl. Moon Girl is she could have a bit of a kinship with Riri Williams in that they're both young geniuses. And she'd also be able to have a kinship with Miss Marvel in the fact that they're both Inhumans. And so, ironically, the Captain Marvel and the Tony Stark of the group, I say ironically because those two at one point both worked for S.H.I.E.L.D. and those two together formed, like those two characters together. I'm not talking about the Young Avengers here, I'm talking about actual Captain Marvel and Iron Man. In the comics, they were the ones that created the New Avengers. They hand-picked characters to fill specific roles and hand-created the New Avengers. So I just think it's funny that it's just happens to be those two that that Moon Girl would have a kinship with. The other thing too would be is if they end up deciding to bring using the same actors, and I hope they use the same actors, God, they do such a good job in those shows. But if they decided to bring in Cloak and Dagger and the Runaways into the MCU proper, and like I said, with those same actors, then she would also have a relationship of a sort with Gert Yorks from the Runaways, because they both have a telepathic link to a dinosaur, and that, I think, would be enough to be like, well, where are all these dinosaurs coming from? And then we get to the X-Men villain Sauron, who lives in the Savage Land, which is, if you want to know what the Savage Land is, go and watch it's like Ice Age 3, Dawn of the Dinosaurs, or whatever it is. I think it's number 3. And essentially that. It is a tropical prehistoric environment that still exists under the otherwise snow-capped terrain of Antarctica. That is the Savage Land. It is complete with its own Tarzan-esque character by the name of Kazar, who I think would be an awesome character to look at, as well as we've got Shannon the She-Devil, and we'd also get to see Zabu, the saber-toothed tiger, which would be really cool. So there's that, and obviously dinosaurs just roam freely there, so where else would you find a dinosaur in the MCU but there? And then yeah, that'd be a really cool way to sort of introduce those characters. It'd be kind of cool. Other characters that could show up that have already been cast, Harley Keener could come back as Iron Lad. I say this purely because I don't think they're going to do the whole Iron Lad is just the younger version of Kang the Conqueror. I think that's a little too comics for general audiences. General audiences want their time-traveling villain to be over here and their young Iron Man over here, and not to cross them over. So Harley Keener is Iron Lad, played by Ty Simpkins, and then we know, okay, cool, since Iron Man 3, that's what this kid's been up to, that's why he was at Tony Stark's funeral, he's gonna fill in for his mentor. And then we could also see Morgan Stark take on her mother's rescue armor, being played by Catherine Langford, since that was the role she was cast to play in Endgame. They did even shoot a scene with her playing a grown-up Morgan Stark, and I think it'd be really cool if Marvel was like, well, okay, we didn't put it in that film, but she's still on this contract, let's put her in this, she can have the rescue armor, and that just allows Pepper to go on and live her life as just being Pepper Potts. And I think that'd be really cool. And so obviously with that, you can see how quite easily they just slip in as like a one-for-one analogue of the grown-up Avengers. I did also mention in my Midnight Suns video that Jennifer Kale, if she appears, could just be the Doctor Strange for this group. I do also think it's funny how, aside from Ty Simpkins' Harley Keener, all the other characters that we know have actors assigned to them are all female. So Morgan Stark, Cassie Lang, Riri Williams, America Chavez, Kate Bishop, and Kamala Khan. So at the moment, not only have we got confirmed characters for, complete with actors assigned to them for a Young Avengers thing, but it's also looking like this Young Avengers at the moment is also going to be a young A-Force as well, which is super interesting as well. Especially since you consider we're getting She-Hulk, we could potentially see Spider-Woman, Jessica Drew, show up in Secret Invasion. That'd be really cool to see. And then obviously, you know, you just throw in literally all the characters that were in that A-Force lineup sequence in Endgame during that final battle. You've got your team. It's done. So that's kind of cool to think about as well. That not only are they looking at how can we make this team interesting and like make good on the characters that we've got, but the fact that they've sort of started by going, well, let's look at the females on this team first. Plus, I mean, Yelena Belova's also been cast. I, for whatever reason, didn't put her name on this list. Florence Pugh. So that leaves Wiccan Speed Patriot, all male, Kid Loki, potentially Timothy Chalamet. Either of the Hulk fill-ins from actual Hulk mythos being male, Hulkling and Nova both being male. There are going to be some males on this team, but it looks like they're going to be pretty balanced out by the amount of females on this team as well, which is good. Now, by setting up the Young Avengers, and this is how they fit in to the wider MCU, by setting them up, Marvel Studios allows itself the luxury, really, to make films and explore different storylines from the comics for the foreseeable future. And when I say that, I mean, like, it could go on for the next 20 years. I know we only recently, like 2 years ago, celebrated the first 10 years, but we could see the first 30 years before these actors decide that, okay, well, we've been part of this for half our lives, it's time to go and work on some more mature things. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is like, what, 60 years old or something like that? So someone like Haley Steinfeld, who's in her 20s, I mean, if she plays that role until she's as old as Robert Downey Jr., that's easily the next 40 years of Marvel stuff where she's playing Kate Bishop, easily. I don't think it's going to go that long, but there is still that opportunity for them to do that, and they won't have to bother about recasting, because these kids, as they will start out, can grow with the franchise, can develop their characters over the decades, and sort of set themselves as the definitive versions of those characters in all of cinema, potentially owning themselves like the record for played a comic book character for the longest time, taking over from Hugh Jackman and Robert Downey Jr. in their Wolverine and Iron Man roles respectively. The other thing that this will do is it will draw in a younger generation of fans, as the demographic currently watching these films, and you can look this up, is predominantly adults. What this does say to Marvel, though, is that yes, bring in your younger characters. Obviously Disney is a family-friendly company, they want to be marketing to kids as well. What kid doesn't like a good superhero cartoon in the morning? Let's make some superhero movies and stuff as well. But it does also say to Marvel, you need to be starting to make some R-rated Marvel films, some R-rated Marvel content, and if that means that Disney does need to do a Disney 18 plus sort of thing, then I think that needs to happen. Characters like even if we look at some of the other things that Disney does, like Star Wars, some of those characters have some dark histories. You could make the lightsaber battles more visceral. I think that there are some characters there that you could really explore very well with an R-rated label. Obviously here for Marvel, predominantly like the Midnight Suns, so Blade, the Punisher, Ghost Rider, Moon Knight, Deadpool. I know he's not a Midnight Sun, but Deadpool, your anti-heroes in your Midnight Suns basically would make your R-rated ones, and we would love to see them doing that. And yet, being owned by Disney, Marvel's not willing to go above a PG-13. There have been rumours circulating that Deadpool 3 will be a PG-13 affair, which is sad, because he really deserves to be an R-rated character. But it does also mean that if you're looking at it just as like a scale of things, yeah, PG-13 is not R. However, if you're looking at it as a spectrum, and PG-13 occupies a space in that spectrum, they can push that as far to that bar as possible, essentially making it an R-rated film without crossing into that actually getting the R rating. So we could still potentially get just as good of a Deadpool movie. We just see maybe a little less gore, or maybe some character cuts him off before he says, you know, before he drops an F-bomb, or whatever it might be, you know. And you could easily, with a character like Deadpool, turn that into a running gag, whereas like people keep cutting me off before I can say fuck. But yes, the Young Avengers will be drawing in a younger crowd, and as far as being an entertainment company is concerned, you want a younger crowd to be your audience, because if you can get them when they're younger and they go, these are my favorite films, you end up getting a fan for life, and anything else you put out under that particular banner, those people are going to go see as fans of that franchise. So it's smart marketing as well. But yeah, that's all I've got for this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to ring that little bell if you want to be notified when I upload new videos. And yeah, that's all I've got for today. So until next time, guys, keep your head screwed on.